Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
I'm Lita Leapins.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
Well, we find ourselves here at Mahoney's Tavern in Falls Creek.
Yeah, Lita, we don't have the city backdrop, folks, that you may have seen before. It's a little warm by the windows today, but we've got their second floor bar. Come check out this great location. But first, Lita,
let's check out Our City Tonight.
well, we have certainly had many authors on this show over the years, but we have never started a segment out with an author like this. Take a look.
Number 2 on the New York Times print hardcover list, and number 3 on the bestseller combined print and ebook list.
I can't believe we did it.
What you're looking at is a first-time author discovering she has made the New York Times bestseller list. And it is a great thrill to welcome that author to our show. Coming to us from Phoenix, TJ Newman, who has a book that is just, well, Lita and I haven't slept in the last 3 days because we've been reading this book right here, Falling. That's what it's called. TJ, welcome to Our City Tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I apologize for the lack of sleep. I owe you both a cup of coffee.
Anyway, that's all good. That's what an author wants to hear, that the reader isn't sleeping because they can't put the book down.
Absolutely. Now, TJ, the story of actually how you wrote the book is almost as intriguing as the book itself. Tell us a little bit, share with the viewers a little bit about that whole journey, and I guess persistence is kind of the common theme through that.
Yeah, I was a flight attendant for 10 years before I became a writer. And I had the idea for this book at work when I was working a flight. I was working a red-eye to New York from Los Angeles, which is also the flight in the book. And I was standing at the front of the cabin, looking out into the plane at the passengers who are all asleep because it's a red-eye. And it's dark and it's cold and it's quiet. And I have this thought that their lives and my life, all of our lives, are in the hands of the pilots. And for the first time, I think of the flip side of that, which is that with that much power and responsibility, how vulnerable does that make a pilot? And so I couldn't shake the thought. And a few days later, I just threw out to the captain that I was flying with that trip a what if scenario. Hey, what would you do if, I don't know, you're working a flight, you find out that your family's been kidnapped, and you've been told that if you don't crash the plane, they would be killed. What would you do? And the look on his face terrified me because he didn't have an answer. And that was the moment that I knew I had the makings of my first book. And that is the crux of the content, the concept that is Falling.
Wow, gave me goosebumps just hearing you, and I'm already into the book, obviously.
The other thing, and you just kind of showed it, TJ. So often you want to say, tell me what it's about, and you got one sentence. Like the legendary story about how Jaws was sold, or how Aliens was sold. The first one was like, it's Jaws in space. Boom, that's all I need to know. You come up with a premise that's so simplistic, and this is what it is. I know what I'm getting, and just reading the jacket, I knew what I was getting. We're not giving anything away by any means, but that really is what is so great about this book you've written is that it's just, here's the premise. It's one sentence. Go.
It's a simple concept, and I think it's also a very relatable concept. Not that all of us are commercial pilots or have ever been or will ever be in a situation like that, but we've all flown and we all have family. And it's very easy as a reader to put yourself in the position of, well, what would I do? And I think that that's part of why people are really picking up on this book and really enjoying this story, is because it's very easy to put yourself in the character's shoes.
Now, TJ, you had a lot of rejection in getting this book published, but now you're in a really safe place, we'd like to say, because you've had a lot of support. Tell us a little bit about that support with your fellow authors as well at your publishing agency.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was, as you said, it was a long road to get to this point. It's incredible to be where I am, but the path to get here was, I wrote over 30 drafts of this book, and I was rejected by 41 different literary agents before I got my one and only yes from my 40-second submission, which was to Shane Salerno of the Story Factory. And once I got involved there, I was just embraced in this unbelievably supportive writing community that has just meant the world to me and has been a huge part of the success of this book. There's an incredible crime writing community on Twitter that is just constantly uplifting and supporting one another, and that's how a lot of the word of mouth got started. Was Don Winslow, who's a fellow author at the Story Factory, has been just championing not just me, but so many up and coming authors that don't have the big, visibility that established authors have. And it's been amazing to get that kind of support on social media, and has been such a massive part of the success of this book.
Yeah, you mentioned Don Winslow. I mentioned you before we went on. That's how I first heard about you, was through this award-winning author. I don't know how this guy sleeps, because he does so much just on Twitter and social media alone. Hey, gotta ask you, this is wonderful, of course. The book is a runaway success. Hollywood, of course, comes calling. That's great news. But also, this is a 2-book deal. We don't expect you to give anything away. It's early stages, but are you taking a little break, or are you actually working on this second novel?
I took a few days off to get, a couple of good full nights sleep, and kind of, lay on my couch and stare off into space and go, what in the world just happened? So I did give myself a few days to kind of catch my breath, but I'm back in it. It was a 2-book deal, and I have the unbelievable honor and privilege of being able to write another story that's going to be published. So every day, all day, I'm working on book 2, and I couldn't be more proud and thrilled to say that.
Wow, we're super excited to have you on Our City Tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy time from writing too. We want to just say to our viewers, stay tuned, because later on in the show we are going to have a book giveaway, and we definitely know you want to get this book in your hands.
That's coming up later in the show, as Leah said. TJ Newman, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for keeping us awake with this great book, and continued success. I know we're going to hear a lot more from you.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, the HSBC World Rugby 7 Series, I'm happy to say, returns to Vancouver September 18th and 19th. It's back after being canceled last year, obviously, due to COVID. Joining us now is our City Tonight rugby enthusiast. He's also a former professional player in Wales, coached the national women's team. He, I have to say, full disclosure, is a good pal of mine, but we wanted to have Alan Thomas on to talk a bit about the Sevens. Buddy, you and I talk a lot of British soccer or football, but you've tried to get me into the rugby game, and you said the Sevens is the place to start.
Yeah, for sure. For a beginner who is learning to understand the game of rugby union, the 7-side version of the game is a perfect way to learn and discover the game of rugby.
How is it different? Like, I know that when I went with you a couple of years ago, you were saying, like, look, these are all short matches. What is it that brings people out, say, like me, and when I see the social media feeds, the people that have really never seen it, but love seeing this version?
Well, it's a shortened version of the game. It's quick, it's fast, it's 7-minute halves, 7 players on the field, lots more space, lots more room for people to move around. As the games are so short, it's more exciting, the intensity is far higher, the speed of the game is a lot quicker, and it leads to you being excited and watching a high standard of a game of rugby.
How many teams will be coming into Vancouver for this series?
I believe 16 for this competition.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that might change come closer to the actual competition date time.
At the time we're shooting this, it's still about 3-4 weeks away, so we don't know what the capacity will be like for how many people will be allowed in, but you said tickets are now on sale, yeah?
They are indeed, yeah.
Okay.
They are indeed available for both days.
And does every country send their best players? Is Canada sending their best, whereas the All Blacks from New Zealand might send some, but not all, because they've got other commitments?
Absolutely, no. Some of the nations will have their best 7s or a squad of 10 players or 12 players to participate in an event, but others will use it as a developmental pathway to expose some of their younger players on a higher level to a quicker brand of rugby.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. It's still early, but who are the teams to watch?
Oh, there's several teams to watch, because with the game of 7s, teams like Japan, teams like Spain, teams like Argentina can turn up on a particular day and win the competition, as saw in the last Olympic series.
Yeah.
Right? But your main contenders are going to be your New Zealand, your Fiji, South Africa, England. Canada did extremely well in the last Vancouver Sevens, where they came the highest position overall in third in bronze. So there'll be big pressure on Canada to do really well, hopefully building on their Olympic experience. And because with the home crowd behind them, it's a great occasion, and the Canadian boys certainly lifted that occasion.
You've been here a while. I mean, you grew up with this in Wales. Have you seen a significant rise in the popularity of the game here in Canada, and more youngsters wanting to? Did I just say youngsters? Wow, I actually used that word. Kids. Wow, I've become my grandfather. Are you seeing more kids taking an interest in a sport? Because we, as everybody knows, we're primarily a hockey country, but judging by that third place finish, we're obviously getting more awareness to the kids, right?
Absolutely. The exposure with Vancouver being one of the host cities of the World Series, the exposure for the game of rugby across the province, across the country has grown, and definitely the pathway for a young player, male or female, from the early age is there in place. There are talent camps run by BC Rugby that I'm aware of, and probably all the other provinces do the same too, that help and support a young person's aspiration to play at BC Place or in Hong Kong or in Cape Town on this as part of this World Series for Canada.
Okay. This is great stuff. It's the Rugby Sevens returning Vancouver September 18th, 19th, CanadaSevens.com. Our good friend and rugby enthusiast, Ala Thomas, joins us. Buddy, thank you in all seriousness for coming in and breaking this down for us. It's the September 18th and 19th. The Sevens tickets are available now.
This segment is brought to you by Brickbox, the streaming service from BBC and ITV, offering unmissable British entertainment in Canada and the US.
Well, as the intro said, we're starting a new segment here on Our City Tonight with Brickbox. Anybody that knows me and you knows that we love British programming, so this was a dream, a partnership made in heaven. For people that may not have heard of this service, I stumbled across it about, 3 or 4 years ago and mentioned it to you and we got on. The thing I really liked about it is it's kind of a creation from two of Britain's biggest networks, BBC and ITV. New stuff, of course. I love their library's great, but we're going to talk about 3 shows on this first edition, and we're going to continue to do that, offering you ideas of what to watch. It's great. You can get a 7-day free trial. You can pay monthly or yearly. And as I said, this is great if you love British programming. You cannot do better than this. Okay, let's get to the first show we're going to talk about. It's a brand new season 2 of a show called MacDonald and Dodds.
Yeah, this is a great crime mystery drama, and it was created by Robert Murphy. This is featuring a shy detective sergeant, and he's partnered with a really ambitious detective chief inspector to simply solve crimes in the historic city of Bath. Now, the stars are Jason Watkins as D.S. Dodds. He's just a guy who's content to go about his work. He's kind of quiet and originally in the town of Bath. Then in comes Tala Govea. She is the DCI MacDonald, and she's come from the fast-moving, fast-paced South London. So she's a tough cop in comparison to his kind of shy, just go about his business. The relationship between these two is really, really what makes this show, because they're so different, Jim.
Yeah, I think the running thread through all 3 shows we're going to mention today is just this quirkiness of having opposites attract, and this is definitely the case. One of the things that the Brits do really well, speaking of this show and the female protagonists, is the Brits really create great, powerful, strong female characters that you see throughout their TV landscape. Not that we don't hear, but it really shows in some of the shows we're going to be talking about, including this show. And the other thing I really like about this show, watching the first episode of season 2, which pulled me right in, is you've got some great 80s people that you will recognize from pop culture and music in England in the 80s, including Martin Kemp, Patsy Kensit, and Rupert Graves. So Lead and I highly recommend MacDonald and Dodds season 2. Of course, season 1 is also available.
And the second show that was really intriguing is the Majorca Files. Now, this was created by Dan Sefton, and this, as Jim said, more stories about opposites attract and really, really make the characters in this show It's a drama about British police officer who joins forces with a wisecracking German detective to fight crime on the picturesque Spanish island of Majorca. Well, it's Ellen Rice. She plays Miranda Blake, and she's a detective constable with London's Metropolitan Police. And then there's Julian Lumen as Max Winter, the German detective, broody, of course.
Yes, wisecracking, yes.
Teamed up with Ines Villegas, so I hope I pronounced that properly, the chief of Palma Police, to solve crimes. And these are generally ones that are committed against the international community on the island of Majorca. It usually gives Ines cases with less importance, as the detectives are not Spanish, so they're down at the bottom, but they get caught up in a lot of great fixes.
Yeah, they've set it up where, because of where they're from, Germany and the UK, they're there on this picturesque Spanish island, but they're only going to look after international crimes, but they slowly get the chance to dig their skills into local stuff. You know, about 30 years ago, I was writing for a TV show that was very much like this, and I bring it up only because it was set in the Florida Keys, and the location really was like a third star in the show, and you see that with this show because it's obviously shot on location, and it really is a big part of the appeal of this show.
Definitely, especially since we're not traveling as much right now.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to watch the show and go, wow, I've never been there, and it may be a while before I do get there. Okay, the last show we're going to mention briefly is season 4 of The Syndicate.
This was written by Kay Mellor, and the show has actually been on since 2012.
Yeah.
And The Syndicate is a British television drama series. It was written by Kay Mellor, as I talked about, and it's broadcast on BBC One. There's 5 members of a betting syndicate. They win the lottery. Each series follows a different syndicate. And the first series is set in the Leeds supermarket. The second, public hospital in Bradford. Third, a crumbling stately home near Scarborough.
Yeah, we're looking, and the one that we were focusing on is the latest one. The 4th series is set in a dog kennel in Yorkshire and Monaco. I got to tell you, I'd never heard of this show before, and this is one of the shows we decided to look into because the 4th season had just come out. I also love the actor Neil Morrissey, and he leads this band of misfits. And I'll tell you what, again, something the Brits do really well. Let us establish the characters, and then we're drawing you in quickly. And right off the season 4, episode 1, they lay things out. You see all these characters, and then things get really going. And I got hooked right away because it's such an interesting premise, as you said, Lita, because every season is a different group of people with the lottery. This one, as we said, is set in Yorkshire and Monaco. We don't want to give away too much, but as I said, if you like Neil Morrissey, which I did, he's been around the TV and film landscape for a couple of decades. Check this out. It's The Syndicate, season 4. Those are 3 great choices, as we mentioned before. You can check out Brickbox, 7-day free trial.
Also has some great oldies too.
Yeah,
and as you're scrolling through, like Blackadder and all that, you know, this is a great place to go just to watch some of the season classic British telly.
Telly, yes. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I started watching in the 70s, so it's just stuff I've grown up with. But yeah, check it out. As we mentioned, 7-day free trial, and you can get it monthly, yearly. It is the first of many BritBox moments we're going to do here on Our City Tonight.
This segment was brought to you by BritBox, the streaming service from BBC and ITV, offering unmissable streaming British entertainment in Canada and the US.
One of the things that Lita and I love about this job is getting a chance to talk and interview and meet people. It goes without saying, that's what this job's all about. But it's made even more special when we get a chance to interview people whose careers we've been following and enjoying for decades. And that is the case with our next guest. She's an actor, producer, singer, artist, philanthropist. I didn't know this for a very long time, but she's also a breeder of purebred Arabian horses. She is also a recent ambassador with Renault sunglasses. Boy, this is a big thrill for me. It's a great pleasure to welcome from the southwest of England, Miss Susan George to Our City Tonight. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's indeed a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Susan. It's great to have you. You know, your career could take up the entire half hour of our show, no problem. I'm going to try to zip through a bunch of things because I've been a fan, as I said, for a long time. One of the things I didn't know about you for a long time was that you really had become a seasoned veteran as a young child, as a teenager. Can you talk a bit about the difficulty of the transition from, say, teen, young adult, to being an actor in your 20s and 30s? Because, you know, there's not a lot of people that can claim to have made that successful transition. You were a seasoned pro, as I said, as a teenager, and then seemed to move really well into adulthood as an actor. Talk to a bit about that.
Well, I did start as a tiny, tiny child, you know. My parents owned a hotel when I was little, and my mother always wanted to be in this business, and she was, in a way, for a long while in her younger life, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. And I think because I was a reasonably pretty child, she just decided she would put me up for things, and I was quite a big personality when I was little, and it happened that I started very, very young. I mean, I'm talking about very young, like 5 years old. And it evolved, you know. I stayed in this career. I loved what I was doing. And it, as I say, it evolved the years that I did. I think it was 12 television plays before I was actually 12 years of age. Then at 12, I went into the London production, the West End production of The Sound of Music as Brigitte, and then Louisa as I got bigger. And so I have been in this business all my life. I knew no other, and I didn't want to know any other at that time.
I've always been impressed with you and what you've chosen. Although it's quite commonplace today to kind of jump from TV to film and back and forth, back, 40, 50 years ago, you really seem to excel in that. I'm thinking, within the span of like a year or two, you're doing great shows like The Persuaders with Tony Curtis and Roger Moore. Look that one up, folks. And then a movie that really seemed to take you to the next level, which was Straw Dogs, with Dustin Hoffman, directed by Sam Peckinpah. Did that take you to the next level in terms of acting choices after doing that film?
Straw Dogs started as an international movie. It had Dustin Hoffman. I played opposite Dustin, and Sam Peckinpah, as you say, was the director, and it was an international movie. So it did take me to the realms of international, I suppose, career, stardom, whatever you want to call it. It really did change things in a dramatic way, and that made me, once I was international, then I made a lot of movies actually out in California and all across America. I've made a lot of movies in my life, and I'm very happy to say that. I'm very proud.
No interview would be complete without talking about your late partner, a very talented actor in his own right, a raconteur, I always used to say about him. Tell us about your wonderful partner who passed away way too soon, Simon McCorkindale. You took some positivity out of that and created something wonderful called The Lasting Life of Simon McCorkindale Legacy. Tell our viewers a bit about that fine foundation charity.
Well, Simon was my 1 in a million husband, without doubt, and I miss him every day, every second of every day of my life. For me, I just knew that what he would want me to do is to give back in some way to others and make this incredible life of his that was so powerful and enigmatic, turn it into something really special, and to be able to help others within our sadness, and it was incredibly, incredibly sad and still is, but to be able to make something special out of it. And so I decided to set up this charity 2 years after I lost Simon. It's called Lasting Life, the Simon McCorkindale Legacy. And that charity I fundraise to give to smaller, really struggling situations with the cruel disease of cancer. That's what the charity is all about. And then this year, I thought, how am I going to, within the lockdown situation and this awful situation that's happened across the world and hurt so many people, I thought, how am I going to fundraise in these times? How am I going to ask people to give money? It's really, everybody's needy, everybody needs money, and I thought it was going to be really, really difficult. So I decided to do something quite out of the box, and that was usual for me, something out of the box and something new. I decided, another job, another hat. I decided to open a shop called My Things and Others, mythingsandothers.com. And that shop, I've got some wonderful, wonderful, special, talented celebrity friends, actors, writers, producers, directors, and they are all giving me gifts. Special things to them, clothes, artifacts, paintings, whatever they have to give to me to put in the shop and to sell in the name of this charity and to raise funds. And it's such an exciting thing. It seems to have caught the imagination of so many people, and we're doing wonderfully with it. And everything that you see, the important thing, Jim, is when you own something, when you've been a fan of someone for years and years and years, and then you're actually able to own something that belonged to them, that's a very special thing. And I think that's what's touched everybody. And certainly in Simon's case, I've had people write to me, and recently a guy wrote to me and just said, I'm wearing a gold Balmain bow tie. And the wonderful thing about this bow tie is it once belonged to Simon McCorkindale. And if that can happen in this world, if we can give and give back and make someone happy by that really simple, very beautiful thing, then that's what this charity is all about.
Well said, Susan. It has been a great pleasure to talk to you. You talk about meeting people whose work you admire and they turn out to be as nice as you'd hope they'd be, and you are certainly that. Thank you for sharing time with us. Continued success. We should also say everything that Susan and I have talked about. She's got a hell of a website, susangeorge.co.uk. Everything we talked about you'll find on her website. Susan, thanks for joining us on an evening where you are, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Bless your heart, Jim. Thank you so much.
Well, it's time for another Our City Tonight giveaway. To win TJ Newman's best-selling book, Falling, you can send us a message on our Facebook Messenger or direct message us on our Instagram page at Our City Tonight. And of course, don't forget to follow us to win. Good luck. Well, it's time to wrap up the show, but before we go, we definitely want to invite you to check out all past episodes of Our City Tonight on our YouTube channel. And you can visit us on our social media accounts at Our City Tonight.
I'm glad you remember all that because I never do. Anyway, hey, before we go, we started something not long ago where we were featuring some local music, musicians, singer-songwriters, DJs, that kind of thing. We're going to go out with another edition of that. You're going to check out the latest from DJ Josh, better known as CHEK, and his new single, Moment. Enjoy. I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Leapins.
We'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight.
Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877.
Soluzione Spa Products, a national luxury spa product distribution company located in North Vancouver, British Columbia.